Hi, everyone, and welcome to the third webinar series of 2015 with Enactus Careers. I'm Heather Norris, and I am manager of Enactus Careers here at Enactus Canada. Enactus Careers exists within the Enactus Canada organization to really connect our Enactus Canada students to our Enactus Canada corporate and organizational partners for career purposes. So today, before we get into the content of the webinar, which is all surrounded around how to effectively network at different events, I just wanted to bring your attention to a few upcoming interview opportunities happening at the Enactus Canada National Exposition. The Enactus Canada National Exposition does happen from May 11th to May 13th, and all of the career opportunities that will be available to students will be happening on May 12th. So this is the Donor Information and Career Opportunity Fair. This will be the on-site interviews that will be happening with our with selected corporate partners, as well as any workshops that we will be hosting in relation to career opportunities with our corporate partners. So to bring your attention to the interview opportunities, let me just share my screen with you here. Perfect. So if you go to the Enactus Canada Talent Community, I have posted the link below in the comment box. And if you scroll to, you'll have to search for national interviews. So this section here, we have Capital One Canada, Scotiabank, and TD Bank Group hosting on-site interviews. So you notice TD is hosting informational interviews. Scotiabank and Capital One are hosting job-specific interviews. So whether they are full-time, part-time, for new graduates or current students, be sure to check out those opportunities. Also, when you go, you can click on it, and then you'll want to go to Apply Now down here, and make sure to submit the appropriate information. A cover letter and a resume, but Capital One does require a transcript. So just be sure to submit the appropriate information and the required information. Okay, so now to kind of get into the content. So today we will be talking about how to best prepare for networking opportunities. And this is sort of great timing because we do have the Donor Information and Career Opportunity Fair happening at the Enactus Canada National Exposition. So a lot of our donor companies will be out setting up booths, and they will be there to talk to our students about opportunities that exist within their organization. So I just kind of want to brief a little bit on networking to kind of segue a little bit into it. So the main reason for attending networking opportunities or networking events or conferences that have a lot of networking opportunities is, one, to build relationships. This is kind of the core in any industry, is you want to build relationships that will then open doors for you in the future. So your main goal going in should never be get a job or get this question answered or gain this contact, like a friend of a friend contact or a professional to a professional contact. You really want to go in with the mentality of, I'm going to build relationships that are then going to open doors in the future. You don't want to come off, gung-ho on one thing, because the relationships are kind of the building block to everything. So the other thing about networking events is that no matter what industry you're in, at some point in time, you're probably going to be in a networking situation. So whether you're an engineer, whether you are in arts, or whether you are in business, throughout your career, there will probably be some sort of networking opportunity. So it's always great to get these, and today we'll cover fairly basic, not necessarily industry specific, kind of tips and tricks around making the most out of a networking event. Another thing to keep in mind, I know that there may be introverts out there and they have a harder time kind of getting themselves out of their comfort zone and introducing them to someone, or might be a little bit scared to go to networking events and kind of hide in the corner as opposed to going around and actually speaking to people. But one thing to keep in mind that may help to get you out of that comfort zone or out of that shell is that normally everyone at networking events are there to meet people. They're there to interact with new people. They are most likely alone as well. So everyone is kind of strangers in a sense. So when you're approaching somebody, they're probably also scared on the other side to kind of talk to you, just like you're a little bit scared to maybe go and talk to them. So hopefully that eases your mind a little bit, but just kind of put yourself in other people's shoes. Everyone kind of feels exactly the same way as you. Everyone has those little bit of nerves. So use that to your advantage to get yourself out of that shell and that comfort zone. The other thing about networking events, kind of, building those relationships is really important. But the kind of the end goal, you might want to keep those in mind. So again, that value add that is available at these networking events, specifically to relate it to the Enactus Canada National Exposition. A lot of these companies, it is a career fair. They are wanting to hear from you, trying to get selected candidates to potentially have interviews in the future or actually have interviews on site. So you want to look for those career opportunities, make those lists of questions beforehand, and we'll get into a little bit of that as well. And also, networking should not be about giving out the most business cards or talking to the most people. It's definitely about quality versus quantity, I would say. So you don't want to bring a million resumes and your goal be to hand all of them out. All right. So that's kind of, segue into networking. Now to get into kind of how to prep before, what to do during the event, and how to properly follow up. So prior to the event, you really, again, this kind of relates back to what I was saying before, but you really want to understand your purpose of going to this event. So set your goals. And goals can be, how many new people do I want to meet? Who do I want to talk to that will be able to kind of steer me in the right direction in terms of a career perspective? I do have a few other examples here I'll just pull up. I already covered that one. Set your goal. Are you wanting to meet 3 or 4 people? Are you wanting to get a new job lead? Are you looking to make a connection with a particular person or a particular organization? And is there an industry career question that you want to explore with an expert? So kind of set your expectations beforehand. And then at the end of it, and you can say, I introduced myself to 3 people. I kind of met my goal, and take little baby steps towards getting to there. The other big thing is you do want to do your research before you kind of step into a networking event. So this has a few different areas. So one is you want to research who is going to be there. Which in our case for the Enactus Canada National Exposition, you want to research the companies that are going to be there, but also the recruiters that are going to be there. Are there alumni that are going to be there that you want to connect with, that is they're kind of in the career path that you wish to pursue? And how do I connect with them? Where are they going to be? A good idea is to do a quick LinkedIn search once you kind of have the list of people that are going to be there, and search for commonalities between people. So maybe you, again, were on the same Enactus team at different times, or you went to the same school, or you went to the same high school, or you were part of the same group, or you have the same interests, things like that. Find out those commonalities before, and those are always great conversation starters when you actually get into the event. If you don't have a list of the people that are going to be there or the organizations that are going to be there, a good practice is to contact the organizer of the event. So in this case, for the National Exposition, that will be me. I am the organizer, sorry. And you want to ask them who is coming, if it, again, hasn't been published anywhere. So reaching out to them is a good idea. Keep in mind when you do reach out to them that they aren't just catering to you specifically. So they probably can't spend, more than 10 minutes on the phone with you, or spending more than 5 minutes to reply to your email, because they aren't just catering to you. They are usually fairly large events. And so you want to be really quick with your questions. So a phone call would be, hey, I'm so-and-so from XYZ Enactus team. I'm going to be at the National Exposition. Can you fill me in on who is going to be at the career fair? Same with an email. And normally these people have lists already prepared. They're tracking this. They can kind of just send it on and forward it to you. So it's usually not a lot on their end, but you don't want to be asking them, oh, this recruiter is coming. Where did she go to school? What did she do? Is she on an Enactus team? Is she an alumni? Steer clear of those questions because they just don't necessarily have the time for that. You can do the research on your own. Another big thing is to prepare, kind of like what we talked about in the interview webinar that we did. You want to prepare, 1, answers to questions that you kind of know you're probably going to get, and 2, you want to prepare questions that you want to ask. So questions or answers to questions, 1 that you're probably going to get, again, relating back to the interview webinar that we did, is your elevator pitch. So who are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself. What are you presenting today? What team are you on? Things like that. You kind of already know you're going to get these questions, and you're probably going to have to answer them a few different times with a few different people. So have your elevator pitch ready to go, kind of thing. And your elevator pitch can also include kind of what you're looking to get out of the experience. So I'm here participating in this, my passions are this, and I'm really looking to get involved in XYZ industry doing XYZ job. So those, again, you want to target those to the people that you're talking to. Obviously, you don't want to say that, yeah, I'm looking to work at a bank when you're talking to someone like Unilever or Loblaw. So just keep those in mind. You also want to brush up on your resume. So you want to have little tidbits of information that you can pull from. So if someone says, oh yeah, like we're looking for people who are social activists in our organization because we found that they really work well in our organization previously, then maybe you have tidbits of information that you can tell them in that conversation. So I worked on this financial literacy program that helped young mothers get out of poverty, things like that. You want to be able to brush up on that, and again, have them somewhat prepared beforehand so that you're not stumbling on your words when you get there. The other thing is to prepare questions to ask other people. And this is kind of 2-part. So 1 is questions that you want to ask, again, our event specific, to ask recruiters or to ask the people that you're there to meet with. But another good thing is that usually in the room that you're in for a networking event, you're in a room of like-minded individuals. So in our case, at the National Exposition, you're in a room with other students who have the exact same passions as you do, making the world a better place. So you want to kind of have questions prepared to ask the students as well, or the peers that you're going to be around. And I have a few examples of that. So what projects are you working on right now? And then kind of pulling from those projects, or pulling from those that answer and keeping the conversation going. How did you get involved in your Enactus team? That's a great personalized question. When you're talking to companies, how do you like working for your company? How did you get involved in your company? What's your primary role in your company? You're trying to get to know a little bit more about them so you can target your questions that you ask them, or sway the conversation in a certain way. Another thing prior to the event is your wardrobe. So you want to dress to impress. I think I read somewhere that you want to dress the way that you want to be treated almost, and dress for the role that you wish to have. So again, if you want to be working with Scotiabank, then dress as if you already work there. This goes for interviews as well, but these networking events are also big. I know sometimes people can dress a little more casual for networking events, but it's still very important to dress to impress. Another thing I read somewhere was that things that people wear are sometimes conversation starters. And I believe I maybe mentioned this in the interview webinar as well. But whether that is kind of a unique tie or a certain handkerchief or a necklace, an earring, a bracelet, something that is maybe a conversation starter. And a lot of this relates to places people have traveled. So that's kind of a cool thing. If you have a certain necklace that you bought when you were traveling somewhere, those are great conversation starters. Where'd you get that necklace? Oh, well, I went here and I worked on this project with my Enactus team. Just kind of little examples. If you don't have anything like that, there's no need to worry. It's just kind of an added if you have it. Another side of that is that you should notice when other people are wearing little that well. So ask them about personal, like ask them where they got their scarf, or ask them where they got that necklace or that handkerchief, things like that. Okay, so I think that kind of covers prior to going into a networking event. So now I want to talk about actually during the event when you're in the room. So a few basic kind of housekeeping items, which may be common sense, but big things when you are in a room and in conversations with people is to, have positive body language. Don't be crossing your arms. Don't be hands in pockets. Sometimes it's casual, but you all, again, be the way that you want to be treated. You want to make sure that you introduce people by your full name. This is just kind of a tidbit of information, and it might trigger something for somebody. So introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Heather Norris with the Enactus Canada team, whatever it may be. Positive body language. You want to make sure you have good posture, that you're smiling, you're exuding positive energy, maintaining eye contact with people and not staring off and gazing somewhere else. You want to make sure that your speech is slow and clear. You don't want them to be having to ask you to repeat yourself. So make sure, again, it's all about professionalism. The other big thing is to show your personality. And I know, again, this might be a little bit difficult if you are a little bit nervous, but people are attracted to people who are able to show off their personality. And so make people want to talk to you just by exuding your personality. The other big thing when you're in conversations with people, that listening is key. So again, you don't want to be the one doing all the talking. If you can, try to get the other person to speak first. So try to be the first one to ask a question to the other person, because then they warm up to you a little bit. And they also say that when people are listening to you, so let's say that I get asked the first question and I'm responding to them, they are thinking about how they're going to respond to what you're saying as opposed to actually listening to what you're saying. Hopefully that made sense. But if you're able to it also kind of gets the pressure off you a little bit. So you want to ask them the first question, and then they'll respond, and then they will listen more to when you're speaking. So hopefully that makes sense. The other thing is the questions that you are asking, make sure that they're open-ended questions, because you want to keep the conversation going. And again, this comes back to preparing those questions beforehand. You want to be genuine in your conversation. You want to act as if you would act around your friends in a professional setting, obviously, but you want to treat people like your friends professionally. And you also want to make them feel comfortable as well. So don't ask them really tough questions or questions that are going to, sometimes that can be good, but sometimes it could work not in your favor. So just be careful and hesitant of those. The other thing I wanted to talk about was business cards and kind of when and when not to give them out. So again, relating back to what I said at the beginning, your goal should not be to hand out the most business cards. you want to be selective in who you give your business cards to. And the way that I normally do it is who's going to be the one to contact who. And that's usually where I will either give or not give my business card. So if someone approaches me and they say, hey, I'd really love to ask you a question, can I get your business card to ask you the question? Through an email or set up a call or set up a meeting, whatever it may be, then I will give my business card to them. But I would not necessarily take their business card in return. Obviously, if they offered it to me, that would be different. But if I wouldn't, so if I was in the other seat, I guess, and saying, hey, I would really like to set up a coffee chat with you. Here's my business card, might not be the most appropriate, because chances are they're not going to email you and say, hey, I heard you want to set up a coffee chat with me. It's kind of in your hands and it's your responsibility. So those are kind of when and when not to give your business card. Again, use your judgment and your preference, but it's not all about giving out a bunch of business cards. And if they're probably not going to email you or talk to you, or phone you to try to set up something, then it may not be needed. You are probably more likely the one that will need to follow up with them, if that makes sense. So those are a few kind of rules of thumbs. The other kind of tidbit of information that I found was interesting, which I've never actually personally executed, but I thought it was a really great tip, is kind of where and how to start conversations. Interesting. I heard that you want to position yourself in the room where there are high traffic areas. And these high traffic areas are normally where, the bar is or where the food is, because that's where people are going on a fairly consistent basis, or they at least go to that position once. Or you kind of have like a bit of movement. You have a lot more movement in there than if you were to stand in the corner. So position yourself. Sorry, hiccups. Position yourself near high traffic areas, so the bar or the food areas. Another thing as well, don't be afraid to join into a conversation. Some people may think that is rude, but if we go back to the initial, everyone is there for the same reason concept, then everyone is open to inviting new people into the conversation. So I would definitely never not join a conversation, especially if it's someone that you want to talk to, just because they're speaking to someone else. I would definitely, and again, prepare a little bit, find a way to segue into the conversation, and kind of work around that. The other thing is, if you are talking to someone who maybe isn't on your top list of people to meet, if you are talking to them and then someone of higher importance to you comes by or has an opening, don't just abruptly leave that conversation, because I feel like that will harm you more than help you. So make sure to kind of finish that conversation and just be open to, okay, that person of higher importance, we'll call them, will be available at another time. So don't just abruptly run away. And again, going back to networking is all about the quality of conversations that you have, not the quantity of people that you talk to or the conversations that you have. Another quick tidbit as well. So when you do get people's business cards, a trick that I do is I actually write on the business card, kind of not necessarily where I met them, but something that's going to remind me of them. So something that we talked about. So we both love skydiving or something. Or if you promise that you would connect them with someone, then say connect with John Doe by Thursday or whatever. So making notes on their business cards is kind of a good practice to get yourself into. Another thing is, let's say you've talked to 3 people and you have a lot of information in your head in terms of what you talked to them about. Spend some time, go to the washroom, kind of find a corner somewhere and make notes of those conversations, because that information slowly fades away as time progresses. So you could get home at the end of the day and not remember the name of the first person that you talked to. So pen and paper are key, or notes on your phone. Again, make sure that it's professional. You don't want to be looking like you're on your phone. So again, suggestion: step outside, go to the washroom, do it in there. Just making notes is really important, so that when you do get home, you can say, okay, I agreed that I would connect Stacy with John, or whatever it may be. Another key thing as well, so once the event is sort of wrapping up and you have made these great connections with people, you want to make sure to close appropriately. So let's say you've gone around to everybody and you've made, out of the 10 people that you spoke to, you made really good connections with 3 people. A good practice is to go and have that second point of contact with them before you leave. So go back to that third person that you talked to, that you had a really great connection with, and just say, hey, I'm heading out. I'll be sure to follow up with you. Thank you so much. It was great to meet you. What's going to make you stand out, because now you've already had your second face-to-face interaction with them. And it usually takes, 6 to 8 interactions before somebody either one remembers you or will follow through with what they have promised you in a way. So having that second point of contact with them face-to-face before you leave will help them to remember who you are, so that when you do go to follow up with them after the event, it will trigger their memory a little bit more. All right, and the last little piece of information that I wanted to share was how to properly follow up with people after an event. And again, this is fairly similar to the follow-up from an interview that you may have. The time is still the same, 24-hour follow-up prior to the event is kind of, any shorter or any longer than that, they may not remember who you are, or they might be too busy. You want to personalize the point of contact that you have. So whether it's an email or a phone call or a LinkedIn message, you really want to personalize it. So remind them quickly about your conversation, remind them where you may have met. Keep in mind that especially the recruiters that will be at the National Exposition, they may have been at an event yesterday. They might be going to an event tomorrow. So remind them exactly when and where you did meet. So again, triggering their memory. Bring up, at the end of your conversation, if you did talk about skydiving, just remind, like, hey, have a great time on your skydiving trip that you're going to, if they said that they were going on a skydiving trip. So again, personalizing it. Any follow-up items. So if you said that you were going to send your resume, link your resume. If you said you were going to make a connection, make the connection. It's all about staying true to your word. So if you did say something, write a note so that you remember to do it, and then actually follow up and do it. A lot of people, I think, what needs to be avoided a little bit is just adding people on LinkedIn to add people on LinkedIn. You don't want to just say, okay, I'll send you a LinkedIn invite, because chances are, they might add you, they might not add you, but that's not necessarily that memorable, because people get LinkedIn requests all the time. So LinkedIn messages are a little bit different, but just sending a LinkedIn connection is not going to leave you that lasting impression that you want. So they're probably not going to remember you by that. I think that's kind of all I had. So a little bit about how to prep before, how to execute during, and then how to follow up after. If you have any great networking tips that you have used in the past that you found have been really effective for yourself, please comment below and give your tips and tricks as well. We'd love to hear them. If you do have any questions about anything today, please feel free to email me at heather@enactus.ca, as well as follow us at Enactus Careers to stay up to date with any upcoming opportunities. And reminder to apply for those interviews happening at the National Exposition. Thank you again so much for tuning in for the networking webinar, and I hope to see you guys next time. Thank you so much.